When adults behave in embarrassing ways, we call them childish. Now, this is something we should unlearn. Why? Because that's an insult towards children. That's associating children with evil. When a narcissist or a reprobate acts in shameful and embarrassing ways, it's them being negative, not childish. Of course, children have tantrums, children have times when they just want to walk away. But when you look at it carefully, children, and I'm begin with babies, they know what natural responsibility is. I said this before. When mommy comes with the bottle, they know they need to suck the bottle, or else they get nothing. When mommy comes or daddy comes and they put a plate, they know I need to put my hand and bring it to my mouth. They know it. Or if they see, because they do have brains, but the brains of course are not developed that much yet. When they see something that they've enjoyed before, they make sound, because they know if they want something and they don't make plain that they want it, it's less likely they're going to get it. They know that their arms are very tiny. They know that they probably can't walk. So when they see something that they want, they begin to shout, or begin to cry or whatever, that you know we need to pay attention. Or if the baby or the small child notices danger, immediately begins to cry or begins to scream or whatever, they know what's going on. Because they can't think in complex ways. They can't discern things. They can't filter things like an adult does. So small children or babies, they know what natural responsibility is. Let's go to what some older children, 5, 6 years old. When you talk about pancakes and love pancakes, oh, they want to make pancakes. They want to go to the stove. But then you should tell them, no. I don't allow you near the stove, because you're going to burn yourself. I don't want that to happen. But then they say, Mommy, Daddy, I know what I'm doing. I know how to do it. And you tell the child, no, you can't handle this. Of course, you're the adult. You see clearly that they can't manage that type of responsibility, which is the stove. So you prohibit them from coming near the stove. So what I'm pointing out is, children, on many occasions, they are far more realistic than most adults. There are many adults who are just delusional. They hold on to many expectations and many ideas that they can't account for. And they don't want you to point out that what they're clinging on to can't be accounted for, because they will retaliate with violence. They call that being assertive, defending yourself, having boundaries, having principles, telling you have to mind your own business. Adults have a lot of delusional things they're clinging on to. Yes, they pretend as if children are the delusional ones. Of course, children have a lot of fantasy, and children often can't discern things, because they are just kids. But on many occasions, especially when it comes to danger, children are very realistic and very direct. Now, why am I mentioning this? It's because many adults, they are so conditioned by society that even when their life is at stake, they align themselves with society, and that means with a situation that endangers their life. And they think they're doing something good, something noble. I watched a Korean movie lately. I watched several Korean movies. And one of them is called The Wrath. It's a remake of a movie from the 1980s, which is a Korean movie. It's a thriller/horror movie, even though I wouldn't call it a horror movie, because the so-called the special effects are ridiculously of ridiculous low quality. So there is no actual there weren't any really scary scenes. By the way, I'm not triggered by those scary scenes anyway, because I know the paranormal directly, because I've witnessed it, so I know how evil spirits look in real life. So those scare effects of horror films, they're like inverted comedy to me. They're not frightening at all, but okay. In this movie, The Rod, also called Woman's Wail, the movie's in Korean, but you have English subtitles. It's about this household that's accursed. So you have this noble household where you had 3 sons. 2 of them died on their wedding day, and their widows remained behind. And people found out that the estate where that noble household was haunted. They said that a demonic entity was killing the people in that family. So the movie begins with this young woman who was brought by this elderly man as the new bride for the 3rd son. And you also see that this 3rd son, who acts as a nobleman. The movie takes place in I believe it's the 1800s, during the Joseon dynasty, 1700s, 1800s, something like that. So it's a historical based movie. Not that it's based on something that really happened. Well, maybe it did, but it's a historical theme. So this nobleman, this young man, whose brothers died, approaches this warlock, and he asks for a specific sword, saying, "I'm going to kill that spirit with my own hands. I'm going to end all of this." The warlock, who was an older man, told them, "Young man, I would be careful with that." The young guy thought, "Give me the sword." So he gave it to him. He went out, he approached his mother, he married his bride. The woman became pregnant, but he had an encounter with the entity and he died. He thought, "I'm going to fix this." He relied on himself, and it became his doom. The older man told him, "Be careful, son." Now, it's not really the most interesting part of the movie. When that happened, and the bride of the 3rd son, who also was a widow now you had 3 widows in the household. One of them was pregnant with the 3rd one, and the other 2 were jealous. But because the place was still haunted, the mother of the household asked, actually she hired a fortune teller who was a powerful warlock to come. And the warlock, he had long hair, he dressed in a feminine way. Well, the top pagans, they are sodomites, so we know that. So even in that movie, the movie directors revealed that. So this sodomite fortune teller, he came there with his assistants, and the moment he entered the court of that estate, immediately his inner radar went off, and he sensed the demonic presence. And the demonic presence was wild, going here and there. And the man knew immediately, there's something very dangerous. But he also, because he's a fortune teller, he also noticed that there's something going on with that pregnant woman. And that pregnant woman was the 3rd widow, who was not from a noble descent. She was just from a peasant village. She was pregnant, and the fortune teller asked the lady of the house to talk to her pregnant daughter-in-law. Well, that was permitted. So when it happened, the fortune teller told her, "Young lady," that the guy was young himself, But he told her young lady, because he did it in a respectful, honorable way. Yet honorary speech was very important in the Chosun, in the Kingdom of Korea. So he told her, young lady, you need to get out of here. If you stay here, you and your baby are going to get hurt. The man told her straight up, you need to get out of here. But she wanted to stay because she was ambitious. She was carrying the son of a nobleman who passed away, but so the child that would be born would be a nobleman or noblewoman. So she wanted to hold on to that future. But the fortune teller told her, you need to get out of this house. Okay. Till then, you just look at the movie, you think, okay, I understand the plot. But then we begin to ask, where is the father of this household? Where's the paterfamilias? Because it's men that have the lead, not the women, in Korean households. That means during that time. So where is he? One day, this pregnant widow encounters a man that's attacking her. And this man that wanted to attack her, he was the husband of the lady of the property. And allegedly, the husband lost his mind and they hit him to protect him from being put in a mental asylum. So even noblemen could end up in mental asylums, but that would mean they would lose their status of nobility and they would lose their estate. But for some reason, the lord of the household of that house is suddenly recovered after coming in contact with that pregnant widow. And the man who was the husband of the lady of the house, who was the father-in-law of the all three widows, he was restored. Everyone received him back after all that time. But then the haunting continued. And folks were asking, who is the spirit? And then in the movie, the pregnant woman, who also has some paranormal abilities, found out in a vision, actually the demons revealed it onto her, that the lord of that household, of that estate, killed his wife in a very brutal way. His wife was pregnant and he killed her because he didn't trust her. She was pregnant again in old age and he was thinking, how can you be sure it's mine? He was accusing her of infidelity, and then she remembered him of all the people he paid, all the people he killed through hitmen, and then that's what frightened him and he decided, I'm going to get rid of her. But before he actually killed her, because he and his men tortured her for a while before, after he stabbed her in the belly, killing the baby, she told him, I'll kill all your sons, I'll destroy your household. And the guy then killed her and they buried her in a ditch. They just throw the body in a ditch, throw some rocks above it. But in the movie, you see the same woman who was killed and buried being the lady of the house, alive and well. So that confused you as a viewer, but later it all became clear that the quote-unquote lady of the household that they were interacting with was not the actual lady of the household, but it was a demonic entity that took over her form and pretended to be her. So they were all fooled. So when the husband was recovered from his psychosis, he forgot that he killed his own. Well, he forgot that he killed his own wife, kind of. It was later the memory returned. And I'm not going to spoil everything, but it comes down to this. That fortune teller came again, and the fortune teller told that pregnant widow, you need to get out of this house now, because things are going to get worse. Why? because that demonic entity that pretended to be the lady of the house turns on that pregnant woman and provoked people to kill her. So what the fortune teller said was true. She had to get out of the house, but she still wanted to fight. And it became a fight indeed, which she won. But eventually, she was left with the house, with the estate. So she won. She was pregnant and she now inherited the estate. But when the fortune teller was leaving the property, he looked behind him. For some reason, he looked back. And when he looked at the widow with the child, because all the other people were dead, he saw that demonic entity standing near the pregnant widow in the form of a little girl. And the demonic entity was looking at him, that's the fortune teller, and smirking. And the demonic entity said something like, before when they defeated her, the demonic entity said something like, when you win everything, you lose everything, something weird like that. So what happened eventually was that this widow was about to become a mom. She did not listen to the warning to leave the situation. Eventually she won, but the victory would backfire onto her, because now there was a demonic entity attached to her which would haunt her and the baby that would be born. So now the generational curse would continue. And here's the thing. In the beginning of the movie, when the fortune teller told her, you need to get out of this house or else you and the baby are going to get hurt, the fortune teller even told her, do not choose a fate you can avoid. So don't put up with a day. So actually what he meant was, don't put up with an outcome that's harmful but that you can get rid of. But she was so stubborn, so indoctrinated with these ideas of respect and nobility and all that she couldn't grasp that her life was at stake. Even when she was told your life is at stake and the life of your baby, she kept holding on to her duty, what she had to do. Now, why am I whether I speak about that movie? By the way, I think I've spoiled it for you, but well, it has been spoiled on the internet a long time already. And the movie has many bad reviews. A lot of reviews even say, don't watch this movie. But this movie, it teaches you something. Those pagans who screenwrite those movies, they transfer knowledge. And they often reveal the truth onto you in a symbolic way. A lot of folks are just like that pregnant widow. In the case of that widow, her husband died. The family where she lived was accursed. There was a demonic entity harassing them. So obviously that's a bad context. There's somewhere where you need something you need to get out of. And her siblings-in-law, her sisters-in-law, didn't like her because they were jealous on her. One of them even tries to smack her while she was pregnant. But she had her monthly instinct, and she made plain, if you try to harm me or if you try to harm my baby, you're in trouble. That stopped them. So she was assertive. She didn't just take everything, but she wasn't right in her head. Any woman in such a situation, looking at the context, would realize I need to get out of here, one way or the other. But she was so brainwashed that she thought it would be far better to put up with the harm and with the demonic entity than to seek deliverance. And in that movie, that fortune teller kept coming back to warn her, you need to get out of here, you need to go for safety. And that fortune teller almost lost his life trying to get her into safety. She eventually agreed to go for safety. But then she changed her mind again, or she switched back, saying, "Okay, I'm going to stay with this house because the curse is gone." So at the end of the movie, when the fortune teller saw that the curse just transferred, he didn't return to warn her because he realized, okay, this is enough. He almost died trying to help her, and now she's the one enabling the curse. Realize that there are folks out there who are enabling curses. They're enabling collective destruction. It may appear as if they need a wake-up call. It may appear as if they need help, but the truth is, it's you that needs help to be free from them. There was another movie I've watched, Korean movie. This one was called The Witness. And in this movie, there was this psychopath who was dragging a woman in a car, abusing her at a gas station, and then he brought her to an open spot, and because she had those flat complexes like skyscrapers, and you had this square down there, down below. Yes, such constructions in Korea a lot. This is a move that occurs in the modern time. And he brought this woman to that central square between those flats, and he killed her. First he smacked her, made her bleed. There was a puddle of blood, and then he left. And then there was this guy who arrived home late from work, and he was sitting near his window, and he saw her. And the killer returned and finished the job. But then, suddenly, the wife of that man came in and turned on the lights. And because of that, the husband thinking, oh dear, he turned the lights off quickly. He went back to the window, and the killer was looking at his window, and they saw each other. So he saw the killer. The next day, it became big news that the woman was killed in cold blood on an open square in the midst of many apartments, hundreds of apartments. So the police came, and the police was thinking, someone must have seen something. It can't be that this is happening. Even though it was night, there are flats all around. So when someone screams for help or there's something going on, people must hear and notice it, especially during the night when it's quiet outside. And because it's Korea, the economy, it has a 24/7 economy. Not everyone goes to sleep at bedtime, so the police were saying someone must have seen something. They interviewed the residents, everyone, including the man who saw the killer, said, no, I didn't see him. Then he began to receive weird phone calls. Then later a neighbor in the same apartment complex asked him, are you receiving weird phone calls too? You saw him, right? He tried to deny it, but then the woman told him, we need to go to the police, we need to tell them about this. He said, no, I don't want to do that. I don't want my family to get in trouble, because he had a family, he had a small daughter with his wife. That female neighbor ends up being killed. The killer comes after him, and the killer begins to stalk him. And there was this police officer who knew that this man saw the killer and that the killer was after him. There was this scene in which the police officer, they were in public, even told the man, did you see the killer? If you can't speak, just nod. The killer was standing right over there watching at them, and the man acted in a hysterical way saying, I never saw the killer, leave me alone, you got the guy already, blah blah blah. Later in the movie, more people died. And eventually, the witness himself was in trouble. And it's only way later on that he admitted that he'd seen him and had that to go after him. But here's the thing, that police officer, even though he didn't have a high rank, he knew who the guy was. He found out who the killer was. He just needed the confirmation of the witness to catch the guy. because that guy was very dangerous. He even used a bomb when the police finally came after him, tried to kill all the police officers. And during the movie, when the manhunt began, he even went to the family of that witness with a hammer, seeking to kill the wife and the little daughter. By the way, that's the hate towards females that the elites have. So even in their movie productions, they reveal that. So all of that happened, and eventually the witness ends up in a fist fight with this killer within the mud while it's raining, because they crossed some fence into some natural park where there was a prohibition not to cross when it's raining because it would be dangerous, so they were there. So eventually there was this stream of mud that dragged him away. So you think it would be over then? No. The killer still tried to kill him, and he saw other corpses over there, as if those were people that the killer killed also, which was true, he found out eventually. So what he did was, he picked up a root of a small plant, and he smacked it against the killer, and that's how he won. And that's symbolic for, you need to deal with things from the root. So we use the root to get rid of the problem. Now I'm not going to reveal the movie was almost over from then, but that movie reveals that common people, I would say world people in general, they enable dangers way too long, because often the solution is so simple, but they refuse to comply with the solution. In that movie, The Witness, that man that was the witness, he only had to pick up his phone, call the police saying, I saw the man. If he would have pointed it out directly, that killer would have the police force after him, and he wouldn't have been able to walk around freely, killing, spreading destruction, spreading his filth. Instead, because the man remained quiet, because he was avoiding the issue, it began to haunt him. And that's how it goes in the world also. Generational curses, as well as collective contention, it doesn't just happen. Those demons out there needs to be enabled by the world's population. And there are folks out there who are haunted not because of something they enable, but because people around them enable something. But that's the thing. When an enabler that enables dysfunction causes dysfunction on others. So there's always some victimization involved. But that's how a lot of world people are. Instead of self-reflecting and going to the root, they will deny, and when you pressure them, they will likely turn on you, telling you to mind your own business, to leave them alone and all of that. It's only when it's way out of hand that sometimes they realize, okay, something needs to be done about this. And there's a lesson for us here, believers. Whenever you notice that something is odd, and you're guaranteeing someone that it's okay to admit what's going on, because once you admit it, you can receive help, this can become better. Now, there are times people have difficulty receiving help because they've been betrayed in the past. Okay, so with some folks, you need to have discernment. You need to, some people also slow learners, some people don't really realize what's going on, okay? You have that. But apart from that, even if someone's a slow learner, you can see when someone is willing to comply with solutions. When you notice that someone is not willing to comply with solutions, don't be like that fortune teller from that movie I've spoken about, and don't be like this police officer in the second movie, because in that case, you will be endangering yourself and others. Why? Because the enabler in this case enables the dysfunction. So they are advancing the harm. So when you remain around them thinking that you can convince them to comply with justice, you will be endangering yourself, because either that individual himself will turn on you, or the dysfunction that they're enabling will begin to affect you too. Now, I begin this video talking about how children often are far more realistic than many adults, and how many adults have delusions they're holding on to. Think about it this way. If someone is not willing, I don't think about not being able, because they are able. If they're not willing to grasp that they, as a world population, need to be collectively accountable for what's going on, if they remain in these things called privacy, boundaries, and all those all those concepts of self-imprisonment, if they persist in it, despite evidence that they need to let it go, then you're not dealing with someone that needs help, you're dealing with an enabler of evil. That's what you're dealing with. So don't call them childish, because it's not childlike. If it was childish, they would be curious. If it was childish, they would be immature in how they manage it. But they're not immature, they are rebellious. And remember those two movies that I've used as a parable in this video. When you see that folks enable dysfunction and harm, get the heck out of there. Just get out of there. Do not invest your efforts where people are loyal to darkness, because the demons that they enable will come after you, because the demons will protect their supporters. And there are times demons will reveal themselves open to you, because this you should understand, demons want attention. They are attention whores. That's what demons are. So when demons warn you about something, it's not really to help you out, it's just so that they can get attention from you, even if it's just attention for a few minutes. That's how evil spirits are. Sometimes you have dangerous people because there are enablers, but you're not aware of it. You sense that there's something off this individual, but you can't put your finger on what it is. And then suddenly you look at an individual and you see this entity around there. There are times it's the demons themselves that want you to see them. The demons know that after you see them, you will avoid that individual. So did the demons do it to warn you? Yes, they did it to warn you, but not to point you towards Christ. They do this so you may think that there's something good in some evil spirits. And not all evil spirits are bad, because evil spirit warned you by showing himself that this individual is harmful. No, it's a trick. Don't fall for it. Even when demons do good things, it's just to advance an evil agenda. So keep your eyes open and don't call negativity childish. Call it for what it is, negativity. Keep your eyes open, folks. Agree with Christ.